Hello everyone, this is Big Boss Calvin 83. Today I'm going to discuss a touchy subject. And this is a response to many people who ask me, why do I talk about race? And why do I address racism in my videos? And, I'm going to just tell you the truth. First off, I want to give you a warning. To those who are racist and those who are prejudiced and don't like so-called black people, you might not want to watch this video. So don't waste your time watching. I'm not going to argue with you nor debate with you on this touchy subject because you don't know what me as a man of color, me as a Nubian man, me as a so-called black man, you don't know what my experiences and what I deal with on a daily basis in America. You don't know. You never walked my shoes. But you assume and know so much. So, this is going out to Caucasians who are racist and other groups who are non-Caucasians who are prejudiced against black people. Now, if you're not racist, if you're not prejudiced, and you claim you love black people, you like black people, you love people of color, you love the culture, you're not a culture vulture. Now, if this doesn't apply to you, if you're not racist, if you're not prejudiced, then do not respond and don't apply and don't reply. And I'll say it again. If you're not a racist nor prejudiced, don't reply and let it fly. Now, I took some notes down, but I want to just go off the list. This is what pisses me off about people. We don't want to acknowledge racism that exists, and we're talking about systematic racism. We're not talking about somebody who don't like you. But you got to understand, too, Caucasian people, now, you got to understand, we're talking about systematic racism, institutionalized racism here. We're not talking about prejudice. See, y'all don't understand, y'all can't put the two together. And it's like, I really didn't want to do this video topic, but I've been trolled, I've been aggravated for the last few months, and I've lost friends. People who I thought were my friends were never my friends. And this is basically Caucasian people, mainly. I really don't have a problem. Asian people don't give me a hard time much. Latinos and Hispanics don't give me a hard time as much. East Indians don't give me a hard time as much. Middle Easterners don't give me a hard time. Even Native Americans don't give me a hard time. But the people who give me the hardest time is usually racist Caucasians and self-hating black people who I call Negropeans and coons. Now, if you're not a Negro, now to y'all Negroes, if you're not a self-hating handkerchief head Negropean coon, you should not be offended. If it doesn't apply to you, let it fucking fly and don't reply. And it's like in my videos, that's like, when I deal with racist Caucasians, because that's who the fuck they are, they want to talk about slavery. I rarely talk about slavery. I talk about current events. It's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you bring up slavery, then it's a problem. If you don't talk about it, you racist motherfuckers want to bring it up first. Okay. First off, maybe instead of arguing and debating with people of color, maybe you should pick up a history book and know the real history of the slave trade. Buy a book. I'm going to show you something. Give me a second. First of all, I don't believe that so-called black people who you call Africans sold my ancestors into slavery. To me, that's a lie. We were attacked and conquered like every other nation, every indigenous person when Europeans came to any other land, they were attacked, they were conquered, raped, victim of rape and pillage. So-called black people got the worst of it. Okay, we experienced the same thing, but we got the worst of it. Now, this is what I learned. Europeans didn't steal slaves. They stole scientists, doctors, architects, astronomers, teachers, entrepreneurs, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, and made them slaves. Motherfuckers want to talk about, well, you had your people in slavery. Well, you Europeans had your people in slavery, but there's the difference. I'm not saying that's right, but the difference is they were indentured service, like the Irish motherfuckers, like you motherfuckers had. Okay, they were servants in so-called Africa. Okay, and the slaves that they had were paid a livable wage. They had their own home. They had a family. They were never abused, raped, beaten, and forced to work for free fucking slave labor. You didn't steal slaves. You took people who weren't slaves and made them into slaves. Europeans. Now, like I said before, if you had nothing to do with it, why are you upset when people bring this up? I had nothing to do with slavery, and it's like, yes, I mean, your ancestors did, your forefathers and mothers did. So you had something to do with it because you're reaping the benefits of the evil doings of your forefathers and mothers, forefathers and foremothers. You're reaping the benefits of free slave labor. This country gotten rich off the heart of so-called black people working for free, building this country, busting their asses, not being raped, being abused, being tortured, kids being molested, being killed, pregnant women getting their stomachs cut open, and the fetuses being ripped the fuck out and being stomped on, babies being fed to alligators. And it didn't stop. The oppression didn't stop. You know, being hung, being victims of constant hate crimes, being picked on and being bullied because of the color of someone's skin is fucking wrong. And guess what? But y'all want to say get over it. That just shows you how racist you are. Because you don't tell the Jews to get over it. You don't tell the Japanese to get over it. And you get offended and have the audacity to get offended that they told you to get over it. Get over the American Revolution. Get over World War I and World War II. Get over the Korean War to defeat the soldiers that died. You don't tell these gays and these feminists who are so-called oppressed to get over it. You don't tell a rape victim to get over it. And that's what most so-called black people are in this country. Fucking rape victims. Being abused. And you want to put a statute of limitations on wrongdoing and injustice. You can't do that. But you want to cry about your past. About Pearl Harbor. The American Revolution. The Alamo. Y'all being oppressed by Arabs. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. Y'all can say the Arabs enslaved my people too. But y'all, the difference is
even though they were guilty of it too, y'all took it to a whole different level. And I'm quit bringing up, well, other people did it too. Like a child, grow up. Y'all have gotten so much advantages, so much wealth, and so much power, and so much privilege from what you did, but you don't want to acknowledge it. So you can miss me with other people doing it too, because you're the biggest reaping. You have reaped the benefits of colonializing the goddamn world. So, bitch, please.
And you get offended when other people tell you to get over 9/11. And don't give me that bullshit. Well, they were alive. No, 9/11 didn't have an effect on you because it only happened in New York City. Okay? That 9/11 was an inside fucking job done by other Caucasian people who run the fucking system. Not the Arabs, but you want to racially blame somebody for what you do. Now, if you're not those people who are racist and hateful and corrupt, why do you defend these racists? That makes you a racist when you do that. But you don't think about that. So basically, you want to reap the benefits of colonizing and enslaving indigenous peoples, but you don't want to be accountable for it. You know, the Jews have participated in the slave trade as well, but nobody talks about that. You don't tell the Jewish people, you don't hear the Germans or anybody else tell the Jewish people who were in Germany and the Jews in America who like to cry about the Holocaust, but the Holocaust was not as big as the Black Holocaust. Okay? The oppression that black people face is worse than the Holocaust. You don't tell the Jews get over it and move on. You don't get no reparations. I mean, y'all oppose, some of y'all racist motherfuckers. Y'all racist motherfuckers oppose reparations, but you don't. But this country, you have no problem with the United States government giving reparations to Jewish people when America didn't oppress the Jews. They didn't cause the Holocaust. Germany caused the Holocaust. Yeah. Barack Obama gave reparations to the Native Americans. I got this. It's like the Americans that put the Japanese Americans in internment concentration camps. They got reparations in 1990s. But why did they? But the people who were not. I mean, but the current generation and the Japanese that were living now, why are they getting reparations even though y'all Caucasians had nothing to do with what happened to Japanese people, Japanese Americans? Y'all don't think about that. You know what I mean? First of all, when people get reparations and restitution, the generations that was abused and tortured and beaten and raped and maimed and faced inhumane treatment, victims of hate crimes and all kinds of wickedness. The generations, they all have kids. Peoples who are oppressed have children. Conquerors who oppress others, their children reap the benefits of what their forefathers and mothers have done. And that's what most of you Caucasian people have done. Not all of you, but the majority of you. Excuse me. Now you want to talk. The reason why the black community is fucked up the way it is because of history. The reason why Caucasian people got white privilege. Let me play that clip right now, and it gives you a whole sermon about why so-called black people feel the way they feel. And I'm going to show you examples of white privilege.
So a lot of people, if you look into the finances, they speak on the great wealth gap between blacks and whites. Why aren't they on the same playing field? Now the racists would say, well, black people are just lazy. The racists would say black people, all they want is handouts. They don't want to do for themselves. Black people whine and black people just want to be given everything. This is what the racists have to say. And in order for you to understand the argument I'm going to use based on history and based on facts that really even the racists can't dispute, They are the last ones that need to be speaking to black people about anything. Because if anybody got more given to them, more handouts given to them, would be their group. Nobody else has gotten that much before. We're going to travel back in time. And it will also explain to you what is really white privilege they mention. Because see, a lot of people mention white privilege, but you're not articulating it very well based upon history and fact. So we're going to try to do this in this video. We're going to cover 3 things that the U.S. government has done to give white Americans an advantage over black people or anyone else. If you travel back in time, you will figure this thing out. Now, the first program that they had to give white Americans an advantage, it was called the headright system. Now, back in Virginia, 1618, they came up with the headright system. Now, this system was to give 50 acres of land to every person that's head of the household. And they will usually give them between 50 to 100, but they can give them up to 1,000 acres of land. Now, we know this land was Indian territory. How did they get all this land from the Indians? Well, we know that the Indians didn't have firearms and cannons and all this other stuff. So they slaughtered the Indians and took their land, bottom line, because all this stuff was Native American territory. So if they wanted more people over here, that came up with this system and said, listen, if you pay for your voyage to come over here from Europe, we will give you 100 acres of land. You get your 100 acres of land, you could build your farms, you could build your plantations and all this other stuff. And so people got money together and came over here. They got the free land for free, given by the government, completely for free, and they settled here. Now, wealthy people that was already over here, if they brought in servants, indentured servants, and slaves, they would get 50 acres per indentured servant or slaves. That's why they packed those boats so tight on having Africans on top of each other. It's because every African that came over here was 50 acres of land. You know, you get that? So it was a whole lot of money being made on top of the slaves getting here and doing the jobs for free that they did not pay for. Now, you remember when they would say that, well, white people were slaves too? Well, that is more so the Irish that was indentured servants. And those in that time period that came over, a lot of them had came over even with some of the Africans. They had to come work for 5 to 7 years. But they wasn't a slave. Don't get me wrong. They wasn't. But they had to work they dead off. And after the 5 to 7 years, those indentured servants, Irish, a lot of them, was given land closer to Indian territory, like way away from all the white settlers. This is what happened to them. But they still got land after they worked their dead off. But the black man and black woman got nothing but misery, pain, and horror. And of course, this stuff was legal at that time period. Now let's bring us to the second thing that got white Americans ahead, the Homestead Act of 1862. The Homestead Act was given by the U.S. government. You could make application. They had all this land to just give people, and they gave them land, literally. Black people didn't get this land at all. And if a black person possibly was given a land, it's probably one of the ones who were part of, you know, even from slavery times, so you had the black boule, you know, the blacks who are the tokens within their society, and they trust and they like and use as a buffer to get a hold to us. But they got ahead by getting all that land. So you had two systems so far that's given nothing but land, and the African didn't get anything at all. In the same year in 1862, when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, he signed it and freed the slaves. But there were 930 slave owners petitioned the U.S. government for a reparation for those slaves. And the U.S. government gave 930 slave owners the amount of money of $300 at that time period per slave, and the U.S. government paid for close to 3,000 slaves. Now, for every slave, $300 equivalent to our money now is close to $7,200 if you do the inflation calculator. So that's a lot of money that they gave out to them at that time period for losing their slaves. But the black man and black woman didn't get anything. No kind of reparation, no kind of land, nothing. Nothing but death, misery, and pain. Then you come to the most recent thing that happened back in the 1930s all the way up to the late 60s. The redlining program by the FHA and the VA loans, which black people in the military could not get these VA loans. Now, the banks at one point in time weren't lending to nobody, so the FHA, the federal government, came in and said, listen, we'll back this up with our money. So they started giving loans, low interest loans for white people only to get homes because they wanted to create the white middle class. But these white people could not move in certain areas. And so what the banks would do, they would look at the whole city. They'll look at, what they deem as the good areas by color. The blue is the best area. Yellow is kind of declining. This still has some value. And red is the bad areas. And most of these red, they call it red lining on the map. They would say, okay, this is where the blacks at. This is a bad area. This is deteriorating. We don't want you nowhere near them. So you're going to move over here to the blue area. And that's where the whites was moving to. Now, no black people had a chance to move to those blue areas. See, the government even created the ghettos, the slums, because no black family could get those loans at all. They had to stay in those deplorable conditions. They had to stay in neighborhoods that was not good, while the white families was given plenty advantage to move to good areas. Like I said, all the way up to the late 60s. So you look at in history, you've been given land upon land. Slave masters were given reparations, and white families was given homes, very, very low interest when the banks weren't loaning to anybody at all. Then you take a group of people who never was given land, who never had a Homestead Act, who never had a redlining program or even be able to participate in the VA loan program to get homes. And then after that, you want to say to those people who never got into that, they always want a handout. When history shows that who got the most handouts? These people are whining. These people don't work hard. What have you worked hard to do, Mr. or Miss Racist? What have you done? You've given everything in this country. You build everything off of slave labor. Even companies to the existence to this day, at least about 240 companies still to this day, had their ties back to slavery. There's what? Millions of people still in this country that's tied to their old slave money. And then if black people say something about reparations, it's a problem. It's not right. It's divisive. It's not fair. Well, it wasn't fair when you was getting all the land, millions of acres of land. It wasn't fair then either, but that's okay. So when you see these things about wealth gaps and things like that, understand it comes from somewhere. Now, I know what some going to say. I had nothing to do with slavery. I had nothing to do with any of that. Why y'all talking about that? Because everything in this country that's happening today has a lineage to something. So when you say certain things, understand you was given a shot. We wasn't given a shot like that. What? Oh, well, you guys aren't slaves anymore. Oh, okay. Really? We still mental slaves. We still oppressed in a lot of ways. Well, you guys, you're not in the civil rights movement time. No, we're not. But really, has anything changed? Police still killing us. Black people still getting lynched, but they're lying and saying it's suicides. Black people unemployment is high, no different than back, those periods, at least when they had segregation, blacks had more jobs because they had to create their own businesses. Okay. But outside of all that, those excuses, everybody else got reparations. They just gave the Holocaust survivors more money as of recent, President Obama. the Japanese people got money for being in internment camps. They gave them $20,000 each family. Okay, and they didn't go through slavery. It was just internment camps, right? Native Americans was given, I heard a recent lawsuit of $534 million, which they should get that because look what happened to them. But when the black man and black woman talk about reparations, oh, no. Well, you know, you've been getting reparations ever since you got here, but we can't have anything. And that's the thing. We have to keep researching history to understand the difference. If you really want to bring people together, if you want to stop dividing, well, you know what? You have to make right the wrongs of the past. The wise thing to do is make it right. Do like you done to the Native American and the Japanese and even the Holocaust survivors. Give what you owe, because really it's what you owe. It's all that free labor. It was free. You didn't pay anything. All the murders, all the things that happened to black people. We have been terrorized more than any group of people. You talk about ISIS. ISIS is nothing compared to slave master. ISIS is nothing compared to even some of these police. What are you talking about? I mean, we've been through so much in this country, and we have to know these things in order for us to learn and grow of ourselves. If we stay in the dark, because, you know, they're not going to teach these things in school. They're not going to tell you about the Head Right program. They're not going to tell you about the Homestead Act of 1862. They're not going to tell you about the redlining and VA loan program where blacks can get none of that at all. It was exclusively a racist program. They're not going to tell you that because they would have to tell people that, you know what, we were given an advantage because of the color of our skin, period. And you wasn't because you were black and a piece of crap. They basically would have to say that, but they're not going to say that. And this, what I'm talking about today, you can all go research it yourself. This is about not only educating black people, it's about educating all people to understand why certain things in this country the way it is. So when black people bring up the term white privilege, that's what they're talking about. You were privileged to get everything. You're privileged to be set up in certain areas. Even you're privileged with the benefit of the doubt. You're privileged when your kids do wrong that they can be an individual. But when our kids do wrong, they represent the whole race. Oh, that's how black people are. That's typical of them. But if a white person do it, well, that's just them. That's not all of us. We don't be like that. You know, and if a person do the same thing and make a blanketed statement, then that's so wrong. So it's just things that we have to research and look into. And this is something for you just to be educated on. Because if you really want to, like you say, come together, if you really want to be one people, well, you got to make what's wrong right in order to do that. And if you don't want to make what's wrong right, then it lets you know that you're just an evil person who don't really want to do the right thing. You like the way it is. You like one group being above the other, and you like the advantage of that. And that's fine. You could do that. And I get it. It really doesn't bother me. I've accepted in this country, there are people who really like the society to benefit one group and not benefit all. I understand that. I am a realist. But what I'm doing is just trying to educate you on what got people in that position. That's all. That way, when these people talk to you again and say something about what you don't do and what you want and handouts, you can say, you know what? Let's talk about all the handouts you got. We'll talk about that. Because really, who's the recipient, biggest recipient of affirmative action? It's not black people. Actually, white women are the biggest recipients of affirmative action. But they don't like to even talk about that, you know, because they would be calling what? Actually researching something for yourself? You know, I mean, but that's something we don't do. We just listen to Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity, and just whatever they say, we go with it. That's gospel, and not doing anything at all to look into things. So, guys, just make sure you look into these programs, research it, teach it to your children. Let them know the true history of this nation and what the U.S. government has done to give advantage to one group and not the other. So we can understand why we still have some issues to this day, and we possibly, hopefully one day can fix these issues. Well, I don't know.
You see this and you wonder, did he lose his keys or is he blatantly stealing that bike? In broad daylight, he hammers and then saws on the chain. When that doesn't work, he pulls out an industrial-sized bolt cutter, and when he's asked, he messes up.
You lost the lock?
No, not exactly.
But he's not a real thief. Justin Kelly is an actor, and our hidden cameras are rolling.
What happened? Nothing. I can't get through the lock. I mean, I know this is weird, but you wouldn't happen to know whose bike this is, would you? No. All right, good. Thank you.
While the scene troubles Tim Lucas enough to turn around for a second look, he's on a family outing. His wife looks alarmed too, but they both move on.
Colleen, my wife, she's like, he's totally stealing that bike. She was like, call the cops.
It turns out Lucas is a pastor, but our thief's confession is safe with him.
It was odd that somebody had all that equipment.
But you didn't do anything.
No.
That's true.
That's the bottom line.
Lots of people stop and stare. A few even question the actor.
I guess I have to ask, is that your bike?
I guess technically no.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Good luck.
Bye.
When no one tries to stop our thief, he ratchets it up a notch with an electric saw, even putting on a pair of goggles. That finally catches the attention of Arlene Menard and her husband George.
You're not stealing, right?
No, why? It's not your bike, is it?
I just want to know if it's your bike.
No, it's not my bike, but it's not yours, so what do you care?
It may be next time. So it's not yours, I'll just let somebody know.
As Arlene sets off to find help, we decide to clue the couple in on our experiment.
I think most people don't want to get involved in a situation like this, and so they just pass it by.
George is right. In over an hour, about 100 people pass by. Only George and Arlene try to stop him. Some tell us they plan to call the police later. Others say they're scared. Keep moving. This woman and her friends give our thief the benefit of the doubt. When we ask why, Bisa Washington tells us first impressions matter.
I remember thinking young white men don't usually carry burglar tools.
So we all make assumptions, huh?
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe he works for the park. And our thoughts were if he'd been black or a person of color, the police would have been called in immediately.
We're going to do that experiment with an African-American kid. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I think people will be very distressed.
I think someone's going to whip out their cell phone and call the park police.
Will they? We replace our white thief with this young man, Matlock. Remember, both actors dress in a similar way and are about the same age.
Is that your bike?
Nah.
Then what are you cutting the chain for?
Right away. Right away, somebody yelled. Wow.
Within seconds, another person confronts our thief.
Is that your bike?
Technically, it's not, but it's gonna be mine.
More people converge.
Is that not a cell phone? You call the police, he's like stealing somebody's bike.
Are you taking that bike? Is that your bike?
No, it's not, sir.
Oh, why are you doing that?
Is this any of y'all bikes? Is this your bike?
It's not, it belongs,
no, but whoever's it is.
It belongs to someone.
To who?
Well, not to you.
And sure enough, one man whips out a cell phone to call 911.
Yeah, there's someone taking a bike here.
Our actor triggers more reaction. Some people are even snapping pictures for evidence.
I got you, bud.
I got you.
Guy's stealing the bike. Whose bike's over here?
Once everyone moves away, we reset our cameras, and within minutes, another outraged man is yelling.
Are you trying to steal that bike?
Excuse me, sir, but the bike's been here for days. Like, no one's gonna take it.
Well, that's not your bike then.
Yeah,
you can't just come in and take something from somebody.
Excuse me, sir. I'm not...
Okay, I'll just take your tools away then. This yours, sir?
Please, sir, don't touch my stuff, sir. Please, sir, do not touch my stuff.
You're touching somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, all right, but this has been here. Like, who's gonna take it?
Well, that doesn't make it your property.
Technically, it does.
No, it doesn't. Technically, it's not yours to take.
All right, sir.
When we bring out our cameras, David Robb wants us to go after the thief.
That kid in the red shirt,
he's hacking away at a bike that's not his.
Days, and he has a right to take it and steal it. And he's come here with tools, obviously.
You know, sir, my name is John Quinones, and this is part of a TV show called What Would You Do? You were pretty upset.
I was.
It's important that we speak up in these situations.
I think so. It just seemed like the right thing to do.
Everyone insists that justice is colorblind.
Did the race of the culprit have anything to do with it?
Not at all. He could have been any color, and it wouldn't have mattered to me.
I think it was taking a bike that wasn't his, not what his color was.
Maybe, but take another look at how people passed right by the white actor.
I need the police department.
But not the black actor. Madlock sits nearby, stunned by what just happened.
These racial stereotypes are infused in all of us. I mean, it's part of our culture. So whether you're black or white, you associate crime with blacks and you associate whites with being good.
Jack DeVideo, psychology professor at Yale University.
Whether we believe it, whether we notice it, whether we acknowledge it, race is affecting what I see, what I think, what I do.
DeVideo says we all seize openings to reassure ourselves that we're not biased.
Lost your key?
Yeah, actually I did lose my key.
So when given an opening like this lost key explanation, people may respond kindly. Challenging the actor might come off as racist.
So I get the back, you get the front.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you see. So you motherfuckers convince me with, well, it's like y'all don't want to be accountable. You want to talk about, well, you want to get a handout. No, most Caucasian people get handouts. Caucasian women especially get handouts. But y'all don't say nothing about that. You got illegal immigrants who get handouts when they come to this country illegally. But yeah, but most of you racist Caucasian people you allow the government to give these illegal immigrants what they want. I'm so pissed off just reading off these notes. It's just ridiculous. Where was I? You know, most Caucasian people are on welfare. Most of our they get social programs and especially the women, especially Caucasian women get these social programs, these grants, these loans, and all that shit. You got corporations who get corporate welfare. Did you know that? But you want to blame black people, say all black people are on welfare. No, we're not. We are the last to be on welfare. And if we do, we have to better fucking prove it. I went through social services. I know what the deal is. I know how the game is played. Speaking the truth and talking about this is not. That's causing division. No, it's holding you accountable, and that's not blaming you. I'm not blaming the Caucasian, the average Caucasian person who doesn't have no power in this country. But these motherfuckers think they're better than me and my people, and they defend these racists, even though they claim to not be racist themselves. But when you defend the racists, that makes you racist. Why are you defending racism and Caucasian supremacy when you know it's wrong deep down inside? Because you reap the benefits of it. Deep down inside, you got a privilege that you get out of it. You know, people want to call me a racist for speaking truth. Like I said before, people of color cannot be racist. There's no such thing as a so-called black racist. Okay? Since when the people, I'll give you an example of how I'm right. People of color have yet to eradicate Europeans. People of color have yet to colonialize and rape and pillage European people or any other people. Caucasian people have killed everybody, raped anybody, and committed genocide on every goddamn body who are non-Caucasian. Even killed other Caucasians, particularly the Irish, but nobody talks about that. To be a racist, you have to have power, wealth, and influence. Do black people have wealth, power, and influence? No. And you can pretend all you want. We don't control the system. What system do we have? Nothing. I can say cracker, but I don't call y'all crackers. I call y'all Neanderthal pale skin monkeys. But that's a whole different topic of why I say that. You know, cracker doesn't have the same effect as nigger. I mean, tell me when black people have ever went to a Caucasian neighborhoods and bombed a Caucasian person's neighborhood, bombed their town and destroyed them over a false accusation of a so-called black woman accusing a Caucasian man of rape or assault any of that, or being robbed. Do black women lie on Caucasian men like Caucasian women lie on so-called black men? Hell no. And that whole thing about the Duke lacrosse thing, y'all convince me that the reason why that female lied is because I admit that she was a Negro bedwench because she was a stripper, and the Caucasian guys who hired that stripper didn't want to fucking pay her, so she got mad, and they called her a nigger. I'm going by what the report said. So she made up a false accusation of that she was raped when she wasn't. That's wrong for women to lie on men like that. That's wrong. But that's a totally different issue. That's a men's issue. But did any of those Caucasian boys face jail time? No, they didn't. But the situation was in reverse. If a Caucasian woman, if a bunch of so-called black guys brought a Caucasian female stripper over, and they didn't want to pay her, and they called her a bitch and told her to get the fuck out, crack a bitch. And if she would have lied and said, I was assaulted, I was gang raped by these scary black men, but you had no problem going to their house and stripping for them. But let's stay on the subject. Those brothers would be in jail. There's so many brothers who are in jail because a Caucasian woman, a racist Caucasian woman at that, lied on a so-called black men or a group of black men. That's the difference here. You know, black people do not go around to Caucasian neighborhoods and lighting up crosses. You don't see Black Panthers going to Caucasian neighborhoods lighting crosses and saying Black Power, or going into their houses and raping the women and children and holding the man hostage and even sodomizing the men and raping the men as well. Or flat out killing them, or hanging, or black people going in pickup trucks, driving pickup trucks, and running random black people, black people driving pickup trucks, and where they look for a Caucasian person and lynch him. That's not us. We never told y'all you can't come in our neighborhoods. We never redlined y'all. We welcomed you with open arms. We never had an issue. We don't have, if a Caucasian man wants to date a so-called black woman, we don't, we may feel some type of way, but we keep it to ourselves. But if we do go out of our way to cause harm to a Caucasian person, they get jail time. That a black man will get jail time for that. Because I mean, but if you see a so-called black man with a Caucasian woman, and them Caucasian guys have a problem with it, and they attack him and kill that couple, or kill that brother, they probably get off or get a light sentence. That's the difference between that's white privilege. And you come up with the excuses and rationalizations why they did what they did, and that's just wrong. We don't tell y'all you can't come in our restaurants and eat there, but you got to sit in this section. We never had signs that says Caucasian people can go over there, can sit over there, but you can't sit in the main table. We didn't have no bus company. Black people didn't have a bus company where Caucasian people had to sit in the back of the bus. Okay? That's the difference. You know, what else do I got to cover? So I'm addressing the double standards. Let's talk about the Black Panthers. I'll give you a clip.
In part 3 of our interview with Brother Yakanan, I asked him about accusations that the new Black Panther Party is a hate organization, and questioned him about things that the Southern Poverty Law Center stated about his organization. Let me roll the clip. Now, Brother Yakanan, the Southern Poverty Law Center, on their website have stated the new Black Panther Party is a hate organization. They say that the new Black Panther Party encouraged violence against whites, Jews, and law enforcement. They've quoted statements from Khalid Muhammad and Malik Shabazz. Now, are they accurate to say that the new Black Panther Party is a hate group, or are they slandering your group?
We are the People's New Black Panther Party. We're not a hate group at all. We don't personally advocate any violence. You can't take an individual's ideology and put it on a whole entire group or organization. And I think that's what's being taken out of context. It's like the media will sit back and they will have let's say a 10-minute snippet of something. They will take 5 seconds out of that, and they won't put the whole entire thing into a context. They'll only take, one thing. It's like the preacher reading, one specific, verse out the Bible, but they didn't read the whole entire thing to put it in context, and that's basically what has happened over time with us.
Okay, so people have said that the new Black Panther Party said to kill white children. Is that true? Yes or no?
I think that came from King Samir. And what we have done, King Samir was part of the new Black Panther Party. We are the People's New Black Panther Party, because the ideology, that certain people were speaking that were a part of that organization, we got away from that and from that ideology, because it was really idiotic to make those comments that have been made in the past. So people can hold us accountable for what we say. That's why we even changed the patch. We wear a People's Party patch to let people know that we're about the people. Our ideology is just for growth and development. We don't have time for hatred, for arguing amongst one another, to be really focusing on what the European is doing. The European is going to be the European. So as far as hate speech towards them, anything like that, we don't hate anybody. But anybody that hates us and attacks us, yes, we should have a problem with them, and we do speak out as far as things are concerned.
So the mission of your party, Black Panther Party, People's Black Panther Party, is what? What's your mission? Overall mission?
Overall mission is just growth and development for our people. Anything that a normal man would want to do. You want to have a family. You want to be able to take care of your family, provide for your family. We the model of Black Wall Street, for example. We just want to build peacefully. Now, when you study history, there was no military organization set up in order to protect and defend. Now with the People's New Black Panther Party, what we understand now, that when we do begin to build, which we will build again, you have people who, on the outside, who hate us and will come in and destroy, because they know us building is their downfall. So we want to be able to protect our people, because that's a natural God-given instinct, self-defense. So we will defend ourselves at all costs. No one will come in and have it on their mind that they're just going to come in and destroy our communities as we're trying to build peacefully.
Now, I'm going to present a statement to you, and let's see if you agree with it or not. White supremacy can only thrive on black inferiority. Is that true or not?
Very true.
Now, as long as black people within their minds, not the actual statement of what I said, why black people have this inferiority complex within themselves, that they hate everything about themselves. They don't trust black people. They are skeptical of black-owned businesses. But yet they'll go to a white-owned business that could treat them the exact same way, but yet it's good only if it's white. And this has nothing to do with anybody else. We are naturally self-replicating slaves. Why do you think this keep happening?
Well, we'll continue to perpetuate the cycle, because they have institutions that are set up to perpetuate this cycle. The school system, the seminary schools you have set up. You can look at the psychology that has been passed down throughout us, and it goes back to like something being hereditary. When you go to a doctor, they ask you, does this run in your family? Does that run in your family? Well, fear works the same way. And if you do any research at all, how fear was passed down, from the beginning a long time ago. We don't speak our own language. Our sisters don't wear their hair, as it grows naturally. They're always trying to emulate or look like somebody else. So when you're emulating somebody that hates you, of course, emulating their behavior, emulating their language, you're going to turn around and hate yourself. So this is something that is so psychologically embedded in us, that has been put into us, that we don't really even understand how deep this runs within our community.
Let me tell you something about the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers are not a hate group. We don't terrorize and kill people because they are a different skin tone than we are. We don't do that. We fight against crooked cops, crooked government, the system, the systematic racism, and Caucasian supremacy. We address social issues. All we want is the Black Panther Party sponsored many social programs to help struggling people, poor people, not just black people, but poor people, period. Fair housing, fair education, fair opportunity to be respected and treated as a human being. That's what the Black Panther Party wanted and marched and fought for. But y'all don't do no research. All y'all do is go off of Fox News and watch and listen to that regurgitated bullshit. Because they want to keep us divided. So y'all can miss me with that black KK nonsense. That don't exist. Someone accused me one time. Somebody accused me of being pro-black. I never said I was a pro-black person. I'm sick and tired of motherfuckers assuming for me. Accuse me of stuff that I'm not. I agree with many people who are in the conscious community. Just like to some degree, I agree with some people who are in the truth movement, which is mostly Caucasian folks. The conscious community is mostly so-called, basically black people. Being pro-black is not about hating Caucasian people. We're angry about the injustices, not just in the past, but what most of us don't even look back in the past because you tell us to forget it. But even though you don't tell the Jews, the Japanese, you don't tell anybody else to forget about their past. Even you don't tell your own people to forget about your past. But we are the only ones that have to forget about our past and get no justice. And that's wrong. No, I'm not. There's some things I agree with black people who are pro-black, and there's some stuff I disagree with. But I'm not gonna discuss in details what I agree and disagree with in this video because it's irrelevant. But all I can say is that someone who has so-called black pride, that doesn't mean they hate Caucasian people or any other people. That means they're about truth, they're about knowledge, they're about learning their history, they're about fighting for what's right. And all those people of color want to be looked at as and taken seriously as a human being and be treated fairly. That's all we ask for. Some of you Caucasian people say you have black friends. But chances are, y'all, see, when I hear that term, well, I have a black friend, I already know. That tells me, you know what you already just said to me? I'm going to give you the secret. You already exposed yourself and told on yourself that you're a racist. Even if you didn't mean to come across like that, it's going to be taken as, that person's a racist. Because you're saying this, you're not exposed to black people. And a lot of y'all Caucasian people who claim to grew up around black people and have black friends, you obviously didn't learn anything from them black people. Chances are, them black people so-called black people that you hung around with didn't have no knowledge of self, didn't know their history, didn't understand their plight as a person of color. As a so-called minority, you call it. Didn't have any black pride. And I'll say it again, black knowledge. Don't even know their plight, and most of them motherfuckers are handkerchief head, self-hating coons. Most Caucasian people hang with black people or any other people of color who have self-hate issues and want to be Caucasian. Don't have no pride, or they're go on to get along group of people. But if you come across but if a Caucasian person comes across a black person, an Asian person, a Latino person, any ethnic person of color who got pride and values and love their heritage and respect their culture, you avoid us because because we're against Caucasian supremacy. We're against hate and evil. We're being tired, sick and tired of being profiled. We're sick and tired of being fucked over and treated unfairly because of the color of our fucking skin, because it's not pale. It's not pink. Why don't you Caucasian people who have a problem with people who are pro-black, why don't you talk and want to accuse us, call us militant? Why don't you tell the Klan members that are probably in your fucking family, that are probably your fucking friends, and these other skinheads and these other Caucasian supremacist groups to stop being anti-black, stop being an anti-minority, so-called minority, when the truth of the matter is we are the fucking majority. Black people and Asian people and other ethnic person of color, indigenous person is the majority. Y'all are the minority. That's why you're paranoid. Excuse me. Why don't you tell somebody who's proud to be Caucasian, who's pro-white, why don't you tell them to stop being militant? Why don't you tell the Klan people and the skinheads and the neo-Nazis and these other so-called white supremacist groups to stop being so hateful and evil and stop being mean to people and stop killing and committing hate crimes on people that stop committing hate crimes, because y'all commit the majority of the hate crimes. Stop committing hate crimes on people who are not Caucasian, like you are, who are non-white, basically. Stop with the racist, racial paranoia that that somebody's out to get you. Nobody's out to get you, motherfuckers. That's what I don't understand. Stop it. Stop committing hate crimes on gays and transgenders and lesbians. But see, y'all don't see. Why don't you tell the Klan to stop doing that? Dropping bombs. And tell this crooked United States government to stop dropping bombs on my people. Stop killing my people, especially the cops. And then you want to bring up black and black crime. Well, what about white on white crime, motherfucker? Most crime is intraracial, not interracial, dumbass. When y'all hear a person say, oh, black and black crime, and then denial and blame the victim, basically you're saying it's okay. Well, basically you're looking for a justification to justify your racism and hatred. Did you know white on white, so-called white on white crime outweighs black on black crime more so than any other group? But y'all don't talk about that. Y'all kill each other. Y'all rape each other and beat each other, harm each other in massive numbers. But the media don't talk about that. But if a black person went out and killed one of your people, you call us a black racist. No, you're showing that your hypocrisy. And then somebody's going to say, well, there's a few good Caucasian people. Well, here's the thing. Y'all no different than with me arguing with the women on their bullshit. Well, there's a few good women, but the good Caucasian people are not checking the bad Caucasian people who are racist and evil and hateful. And don't give me that, well, you got black people who don't check other black people who are bad to us. No. If we're bad to y'all people, y'all will kill us or lock us up in jail. We dead or in jail if we practice hate on y'all. That's the difference. And then you want to be white to now talk about, oh, we all go through bad things, but everybody got justice and everybody got restitution, and everybody is sensitive to each other's plight, but nobody gives a damn about people of color, black people in America. Y'all say, well, there's a few white people who freed you off from slavery. The reason why Caucasian people in the past that you had nothing to do with freed my ancestors because of the fact that it was not because out of the kindness of their heart. Because if they had the kindness of their heart, they would have gave us land, 40 acres and a fucking mule, just like you did with the fucking Jews, just like you did with the Native Americans, just like you did with the Japanese. You know what I'm saying? So no, y'all did it because of money, and you didn't want to pay homage to black people for building this country because you talk about, well, we be broke. Well, we're broke, motherfucker. But the thing is, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Bilderberg and these elite motherfuckers are. I mean, how can America be broke for paying reparations? Y'all just pay the Jews reparations, gave them reparations when y'all didn't do nothing to the Jews. That's how I'm speaking of America. And you don't tell them to get over it. You gave the Japanese got the most reparations. Barack Obama gave reparations to the Native Americans recently. No, this country will not be broke. That's an excuse. But y'all spend money on these, but the United States government spends money on these fucking wars, which is damn ridiculous.
And to your handkerchief head, self-hating Negro peeing coons, don't you dare say, well, we'll spend up our money and give it back to the Caucasian people in the system. If that was true, they would have gave us the restitution a long time ago. The only reason why they refuse to is because of the fact that they don't want us to be like the Jews and the Asians. Do you understand? It doesn't matter, and the Native Americans. It doesn't matter what we do. If we get our land and resources and money, they don't want economic independence. So, wake up, my people. Wake up, black people.
Killing people and stealing their wealth and resources and getting more power and taking our freedoms away. That's the real enemy, the government, not us. You know, and the thing is, to Caucasian people who are non-racist, I know why y'all scared to say out, because you don't want to be called a nigger lover. And I will admit that when there's a few good Caucasian people, but that's not enough. You can't have a few good people when you have a lot of bad people in this world. But every time a Caucasian person took up for a person of color, or try to do right and try to make things equal, the other Caucasian people who are racist killed them and lynched them too. Because you don't want to, because that person, because those people consider that Caucasian, that fellow good Caucasian person as a sellout. And then you want to talk about, well, we have a black president. Barack Obama was y'all. The only reason why most of y'all voted for Barack Obama is because y'all couldn't stand Bush, because he fucked y'all over too. Voting is a scam. First of all, we didn't select Barack Obama. He was selected by the powers that be. And the only reason why y'all felt comfortable because he was a good pet Negro. Barack Obama is nothing more than a handkerchief head, sample, self-hating coon who pandered to everybody else, but did nothing for people of color, but did nothing for black people because he felt some type of way, because he had daddy issues. You know, because if he did something, if you try to actually help black people out, you want to call him a reverse racist when he's not in a position of power to be racist. He's nothing more than a fucking plant. Like I said before, go back to the first part of the video. We can't practice hate on y'all and get away with it. That's the difference between us hating y'all and you hating us. All I'm going to say is this. My thing is this. I mean, I'm not done with this video, but I'm going to end this video right here. I put together a video that discusses racism coming from all types of people. We need to be addressed. The only way to solve racism, and for Caucasian people who ask me, well, how can we fight racism? First of all, the way to fight racism is stop teaching your kids to hate us. Stop telling your kids that you're better than everybody. I know it's hard. You know, call out race. If you see another Caucasian person doing somebody dirty, call them out on it. Don't worry about what we're doing. Because if every time a black person does something questionable, we will call that black people do not stick together like Caucasian people and other ethnic groups stick together. You know, If you see racism, call it out. I know you're scared. I know you're afraid of being ostracized. But you have to do what's right. I'm ostracized all the time. By both sides. By all sides. But I fight the good fight and speak the truth. I'm ostracized by the women. I'm ostracized by my people because they don't agree with my views. Because the sad thing about most black people, most of us are self-hate. Most of us have self-hate issues. Most of us are handkerchief heads, Aunt Your Mama, Uncle Ruckus coons. So every time you got a black man who speaks truth and try to challenge the systematic racism and Caucasian supremacy, some other handkerchief head Negro wants to tattletale the massa and kill that, get that good brother or sister killed. And we need to black people, we need to stick together. I'm not saying stick together when somebody's in the wrong, but hey, we might as well, because the way I look at it is like, you got most Caucasian people, the vast majority of them, stick up for each other even though they're in the wrong. You got the women who will stick up for each other even though they're in the wrong. We need people, all I'm saying, everybody, stop defending somebody who's in the goddamn wrong. And start supporting people who are in the right. Speak out against injustice. Call out the hypocrisy. Call out the bullshit. Hold people accountable. Stop worrying about what other people think. The only way we're going to move forward in this country is to realize that we don't live in a post-racial America. We're more divided than ever before. And that's sad. We need to call out racism. We need to call out Caucasian supremacy. Because we need to call out the powers that be and expose them for what they are. And that starts from knowing your history and controlling your dollar. I'm talking to everybody. Don't be afraid to speak out against evil and injustice. Stand your ground and stand up for yourself. That's what I would tell everybody. If you want things to change, if you want racism to stop, that's what you do. If you want sexism to stop, that's what you do. You call the shit out and you stand up for yourself. Think about that. Watch this documentary that I put together and enjoy. Peace.
So I got into a debate today with somebody over All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. I've spoken on this before, but I'm going to go ahead and break this down a little bit further. First, I want to say two things, though. Number one, sad enough in this country, it seems that people lack the intellectual maturity to listen to other people's opinions because they're more convinced and more worried about trying to convince somebody else that their opinion is the only opinion, that their opinion is correct, that they do not have the ability to sit back objectively and consider other people's opinion. Now, me, I might not like your opinion, I might not agree with your opinion, but I would respect your opinion and I'd fight to the death for your right to have it. I guess that's just the intellectual maturity that I have. Number two, me personally, I believe in one race, the human race. I don't look at people and say, okay, you're black, you're white, you're Asian, Latino, Native American, Muslim, so on and so forth. I look at people as people. I believe in the Homo sapien race, the human race. But I'm also not going to be ignorant and closed-minded enough to sit here and negate the fact that there are people that view things differently. That's their right. They are entitled to their own opinion, and I'm not the one to judge. So moving on to the issue. Of course, all lives matter. In my mind, I didn't understand the movement at first myself because I'm thinking, okay, well, all lives matter. We have to sit here and stop saying, okay, black and white and things like that and seeing things in color. But then I actually had conversations with people and I started looking into it and saying, okay, I understand what they're talking about. They're not saying that all lives don't matter. Of course, white lives matter. Of course, Asian lives matter. Of course, Latino lives matter and Muslim lives matter. That's not the point. What they're saying is with the social injustices that have existed within this country, black lives matter too. Okay, that's what is trying to be said here. Black lives matter as well. Okay, especially with the things that are going on against minorities in today's time. And if you don't believe me, look at a Trump rally. It's front and center on dang near every single media outlet that is out there on how minorities, particularly African Americans, are being treated unfairly and unequally, and they're being profiled to a certain degree. So I gave this person this analogy, and I said, look, saying that all lives matter is like showing up to a 5K breast cancer run, holding up a sign and screaming, cure all diseases. Of course we want to cure all diseases. We want to cure the Alzheimer's. We want to cure the AIDS. But we're not at a cure all diseases race. We're at a breast cancer 5K run. We're talking about breast cancer right now. We're talking about Black lives right now. Because the things that are going on within this country, Black lives are not being treated equally. I see it all the time in my neighborhood, in my classroom. I see it front and center right there in front of me. And I don't understand how people can sit here and say about me that I'm trying to race bait and I'm trying to divide us when it actually couldn't be further from the truth. I believe in order to fix the problem, you have to address it. You have to acknowledge that the problem exists first and then move forward. You can't sit here and say that Black lives have always mattered, because the reality is, and historically, Black lives weren't even considered Black lives because they were considered property. They were considered things no different than a horse or a cow or a piece of furniture or anything else other than that. You can't sit here and deny that a problem exists. So in the conversation, even though I wasn't trying to convince the person, they understood what the movement was trying to say. And like I told them, I was like, you know what? I understand, because my heart is telling me, of course, all lives matter. Of course they do. But what we have to point out is the fact that Black lives have not been treated equally. They have not been treated fairly. The way that the system is set up is not, within education, within the criminal justice system, it is not set up equally. And people who tend to deny that are the people who existed under white privilege, just like me, for the longest time, because I didn't want to believe that things like that actually existed. But when I look around the world, of course they do. I can't deny what's sitting right there in front of me. So the person was like, you know what? Now I can understand. Yeah. Oh, you opened your eyes just like I did. And like I said, even though I wasn't trying to convince the person, at least they had that ability to sit back and learn and grow and say, okay, I might not agree with the movement, but at least I can understand where they're coming from now, right? It's crazy that this country has gone this way, but the racial tensions in this country will continue to increase so long as people try to deny it. I am not about dividing. I'm all about uniting. But in my opinion, in order to do that, we have to unite as a people. As I said before, blacks, white, Latino, Asians, Muslims, all of us. We have to unite as a people in order to solve the problem. I want to work with the people that want to fix the problem. That's what I want to work with. That's who I want to work with. That's what I want to work towards. That's what I teach in my classroom. One love for everybody. One respect for everybody. Black lives matter too. Okay?
When we look around and we see today in our politics a rich white man telling working class white people that their problem is brown people, we need to understand the historical pedigree of that. That is symbolic of the entire history of race and class politics in America. The history of rich white people telling working class and poor white people that their problem are black and brown people. So beginning in the 1600s, that is what happens. Prior to about 1670 or so, there was no such thing as the white race, at least not recognized as such, called as such. That is not what people of European descent were when they were in Europe. They were English, they were Irish, they were Scottish, they were whatever they were. They were not white. Only in the colonies do we become white, and for a very specific reason, because in those early years of the colonial period, where you had white indentured servants, one level above enslaved themselves, and you had African-descended folks, some of them enslaved for life, others indentured servants also in the earliest years of the colonies, those people would often see their interests as being common. They all realized that they were being screwed over by the same landowners, the same elite. They fomented various rebellions like Bacon's Rebellion in Virginia, others as well. And as a result, the elite in the colonies realized that they had to figure out a way to get the other folks from Europe on their team. So they created this mentality that said, you're now a member of the white race. You're on our team. You're wearing our uniform. Now, you're at the end of the bench. You may not get in the game, but you're on our team, you see. So then they start putting white folks, now called, on the slave patrols, right? Didn't really give them any land or any real power except the power to control people of color, which is why folks of color say, and they are right, that modern policing traces to the system of slave patrols and slavery. And we have to be clear on that because that's the history, right? So whiteness was created to divide and conquer, to create the notion that even though you might not have much, at least you're not black, at least you're not indigenous, at least you're not Mexican, at least you're not Chinese working on the railroads to build the transcontinental economy. You may not have much, but at least you have, as W.E.B. Du Bois said, the psychological wage of whiteness. And it's a trick that was played during the Civil War era on my people in the South, right? Rich folk, landowners in the South telling poor white folks who didn't own anything that they got to go out and fight to preserve the rich man's property in human beings. Fascinating. Why would you do that? Why would I go fight for your property? Well, because you told me that if I don't, these slaves are going to take my job. No, fool, they got your job. That's the point. If you got to charge $1 a day and you can make them work for free because you own them, guess who got the gig, Jack? Not you. So in fact, the system of enslavement was in the long run against the class interest of working class white folks, but they got suckered. Same thing happened in the union movement. You had white labor union folks who didn't want black and brown bodies in their union because it would reduce the professionalism of the craft. No, fool, it'll double the size of your union. And then when you go out on strike, they can't replace your happy ass with the brown folk that you didn't want next to you in the first place. Because when they do replace you with them, then you will blame them, not the elite. See how that works? It's a trick. And it has worked for hundreds of years. It is working on some folk right now. And it is our job to resist that with every fiber of our being.